The ongoing war against the Boko Haram insurgents in the northeastern part of the country assumed a reassuring dimension just before the election. However, a change in strategy by the group witnessed a wave of suicide attacks in Borno, Yobe, Kaduna and Jos. On this week's edition of the program, we'll look at efforts towards the fight against the insurgents. Hello there, thank you for joining me on the program. This week, I'm Gloria Umezuke. The increased suicide attacks in Borno, Kaduna, Plateau and in the northeast was followed up by the removal of the service chiefs. Although many saw this coming, but the question would be, what can the new chiefs bring to the table? Where is the nation heading in the fight against the insurgents? I will feature a retired security operative in the interview this week. But up ahead, take a look at the change of guard in the military and efforts to tackle the insurgents. Take a listen. A series of explosions, abductions and invasions of communities across the country were the major challenges that confronted the administration of the immediate past service chiefs. On assumption of office, the military chiefs gave assurances and promised to tackle the activities of the insurgents in a couple of months.
The security situation in the northeast must be brought to a complete stop before April 2014. As I was telling my colleagues, we must bring it out, we must bring it to a stop by that April, so that we do not have constitutional problems on our hands. We don't want to go backslided to go and start begging and lobbying. If we do our work cohesively, I can tell you, General Minima, you will finish that thing in no time.
However, in over 1 year of the tenure, the nation witnessed an increase in the activities of the Boko Haram sect. The military also sought regional support to combat the threat.
This is the time for affirmative action. It is very important for us to build enduring structures that will have pragmatic value on the Lake Chad Basin Commission community. The military structure in terms of the Multinational Joint Task Force is one of such structures and has to be fully activated.
The Lake Chad Basin Commission is committed and determined to support the Multinational Joint Task Force to see that the force is maintained and sustained at top capacity to face the challenges of its mission.
The high point of the attacks is the kidnapping of over 200 schoolgirls in Chibok community in Borno State. This raised concern in various quarters, and there were questions on the capacity of the military to handle the insurgents.
We are a group that work with empirical evidence. We don't deal with rumors, and then we want to see things on ground. But we are hoping, we have hopes in the federal government that they'll do something, and that's what we've all been asking for. That's what our demand has been. They do something and rescue the girls.
Accusations and counter-accusations trailed military operations in the northeast. Some officers faced a court-martial for the handling of the operations in the northeast.
The offenses for the purpose of this trial could be conveniently grouped into mutiny, assault, absent without official leave, housebreaking, conduct prejudicial to good orders and service discipline, offenses relating to service property, among others.
Ahead of the 2015 general elections, the military's neutrality in politics was called to question following alleged involvement in the Ekiti and Osun state governorship elections. While the nation was preparing for the elections, the attacks by the insurgents continued unabated, thereby threatening the conduct of the exercise. However, the military asked for an extension of the exercise to enable the troops reclaim the territories overtaken by the insurgents.
The Commission held a meeting after these consultations and decided to take the advice of the security chiefs and adjust the dates of the elections.
The extension of the election date saw a successful operation against the insurgents as the troops' onslaught saw the dislodgement of the insurgents' camps.
The gallant troops of the Nigerian military, in a concerted and well-coordinated land and air operations, have liberated Goza, the headquarters of the so-called Caliphate, which they renamed Darul Hikmah. This was preceded by successful sack of terrorists from towns and villages leading to Goza, the main objective of the operation. Several of the terrorists have died and many of them have been captured in the process. A lot of arms and ammunition have been recovered, and the administrative headquarters of the terrorists have been completely destroyed.
When President Muhammadu Buhari resumed office on May 29, he immediately ordered the movement of the command center, a move that signaled his intent to combat the Boko Haram threat.
Progress has been made in recent weeks by our security forces, but victory cannot be achieved by basing the command and control center in Abuja. The command center will be relocated to Maiduguri and remain until Boko Haram is completely subdued.
However, the attacks continued, and this time the insurgents adopted a suicide attack strategy. There were attacks in Kano, Kaduna, Plateau, Yobe and Borno states.
Having been dislocated and degraded militarily, the fighting mechanism and fighting efficiency no longer exist. So they had to resort to fighting soft targets and vulnerable individuals and places by attacking markets, worship places and all places of gathering to ensure that they cause damage onto the civil populace and heighten their propaganda. That's just a change of tactics.
The latest replacement of the service chiefs will raise the expectation that the last days of the insurgents might just be in sight.